The first soulmate. Have you ever met a soulmate here on Earth? Well, I'm proud to say I've met not just one, but two soulmates. How do I know? Let me ask you one simple question. Have you been in love? And everyone who has will never doubt it for a second. Not even a fraction of a second. They simply know. That's how I know I've met my soulmates. Both of them have incarnated in two separate bodies and are both alive and well. Both of them are living happy lives as far as I can tell. The first one is male, the second one is female. I'd like to tell you about the first one. It's a story that always brings tears into my eyes. Once someone asked me if I was gay, and no, I'm not. I don't think it's something to be proud of, but that's the truth. I absolutely can't imagine sex without a female. And that's why my second soulmate is so much more complicated. It might turn out to be a pretty long post, so brace yourself, lean back and relax. I hope you'll enjoy the journey I'm about to embark on. What's a soulmate? This is what I actually believe. A soulmate is not a part of our soul, although it's possible that some souls can separate themselves and incarnate into two different bodies. A soulmate is simply a soul that is your friend. We are friends in the non-physical reality that one day we'll go back to, after death. We've known each other for thousands of years, and in spite of having forgotten all that as people, we somehow found each other on this planet. Some people claim that our soulmates are people who live in our environment, possibly as our siblings, parents, kids, or buddies from school. In my case, none of them ever lived in my surroundings. I met the first one when I was 13, and the second one 3 years later. We found each other. Now for the brief sad part of this post. None of my soulmates feel the same thing. This is the only reason we are not in touch. Not anymore anyway. Don't get me wrong, we mutually like one another. No doubt about that. What I'm getting at is that the bond isn't as strong from their part. And so I'm faced with the reality of not being a part of their lives. And I miss both of them. The one thing that makes me happy, though, is that they live happy lives. And that's the most important thing to me. I want them to be as happy as they can. Why am I so certain they don't feel exactly the same thing? Because they have never met. Apparently, they haven't been looking because they feel they are missing anything. I also think that even if they met one day, they wouldn't recognize one another. They must have incarnated with a different purpose. Now I'd like to tell you about me and the first soulmate I've met in my life. I haven't told myself this story ever before, so I'm right there with you. Curious what will come out. Let's begin. Rafa was around 16 years old when I met him, so 3 years my senior. We became friends the first day, something that happened to me only twice in my entire life. Most of the time I need weeks, months, or even years to create a friendly bond with another person, and often it goes away after some time. I'm talking about real friends, people who I absolutely could call that at the time we met. And then there are multitudes of people I simply like. Sometimes those people like me back and sometimes not, but we never call each other after some brief interaction, be that college, holiday, party, or the street. The story about Rafa is actually multi-layered, and I guess that's what makes it so interesting, apart from the key element, of course. Imagine making friends with someone and then realizing that you both desire the same thing from your life. You both want to explore the idea of God, religion, prayer, life after death, spirituality, soul, angels, and hell. I remember that day when I met Rafał. It was supposed to be some retreat with Militia Immaculata who I'd joined the year before. The first day I met probably around 100 people, and one of them was Rafał, and today I can remember only him. I didn't make friends with anybody else at that place. It turned out that he was one of the teacher leaders, and so I got all the knowledge face to face, not while sitting in a group of 20 people 1 hour per day. Those people simply enjoyed their time away from home, and among other people who liked spending time in a similar way. That's the best way I can understand what they were going through, what they were doing there. I learned everything he knew within days. And then we went over the whole thing again and again until I got all that stuff right. By the end of the retreat, I knew more than my brother and other teachers, because apparently only some teachers were really curious about the stuff they were supposed to teach. And I got it all, and I loved it. I loved the story about God who loves us. I loved the story about the Freemasons who are trying to destroy our precious church. The devil and his sneaky ways to tempt us and lead us astray. I mean, the whole damn thing was poured over my being within a couple of weeks. And I bathed in it for the next 12 years of my life, more or less, because leaving the church took me some time. It took me years, in fact. I'm not ashamed of it, and I'm not proud of it. It is, after all, my story. To you, it's probably just a story. Just a story. One of many stories you've heard in your life. But I have to say that I'm glad I was able to leave and never look back. I've never made any attempt to go back, and I know I never will. It's one of those things I've experienced and know for certain I don't want to go through ever again. That being said, it was a beautiful time in my life. I enjoyed life, and I was surrounded by many people who seemed to strive for the same thing here on earth. Only a handful of them ever did. They either grew out of it or never truly felt the way I did. Rafał was probably in love with all those things a lot more than myself. After all, he is still a Franciscan friar. A happy one. Think how rare that is. If you don't know, let me tell you. I've met hundreds of friars in my life and hundreds of monks, people from various orders. Franciscans, Dominicans, Jesuits, Sisters, Augustinians, Benedictines, and so on. I've also met hundreds of nuns from various religious orders, including the secret one. Yes, it is real. They are married to Jesus, and nobody around them knows about it. I guess I was lucky to meet them, and they were happy to tell me their story. Damn, what incredible lives some people lead. So, how many of those people do you think are truly happy? I couldn't even give you 10 names. And yes, I remember the happy ones. And Rafał is the first one on the list. He is a person who never doubted what he came here to do. Not even for a second. He never tried to achieve anything else, get anything else, think about anything else, ever. I met him about 8 years ago, because I wanted to meet him. It was entirely my initiative. He was happy to meet, but that was it. He always lived in distant lands, always moved around, wanting to see the world of religious orders. He never became a priest, just a brother, a simple man, a servant, a happy one. I can say so much more about him, but I'm not sure words will do him justice. I'd like to say one last thing though. The first soulmate loves God. The second soulmate loves life. And I love them both.